Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast. My name is Hannah and I am coming to you as always from St. Petersburg, Florida in the United States where I live. And it has been cold this week, you guys. And by cold, I mean like it got into the high 50s one night this week. Right now it's probably in the 70s and it's gonna warm up today. So I'm not wearing any crochet right now because it's going to get hot again. I know everyone up north is gonna laugh and be like, it's 0 degrees. No, it was like 50. I was dying. I am not built for cold weather. I've been here for 20 years now. I used to think that I loved cold weather and I don't. I really don't anymore. My blood is too thin. So it was probably in the 60s on Thursday, or maybe it was, yeah, it had to be Thursday. And I was wearing a sweatshirt and a shawl and I was still cold. Come to Florida, you'll melt. I'll be just fine. If you would like to get a hold of me in regards to the podcast specifically, please shoot me an email. That is the absolute best way to get a hold of me. I have an email address specifically set up for this podcast. It is thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com. And if you would like to follow me on the interwebs, I am the Cozy Cottage Crochet on Instagram, where I am most active, as well as Facebook. And on Ravelry, it is just the Cozy Cottage. Now, we do have a Ravelry group for this podcast. It's called the Cozy Cottage Crochet Ravelry group. So you can search for that on Ravelry. We've got some awesome things going on, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. I have 2 fantastic moderators who keep the conversation going and are available to answer any questions that you have. I am hoping to get more involved in the group myself next year once school lets out. But for right now, I just have to content myself with leaving the day-to-day stuff to my wonderful moderators, and then I just go in and I promise you I do read every single post. I just don't have the time to respond as much as I would like to right now. But school lets out in December, y'all, so I'm gonna have so much time then. If you notice that I keep looking over here, it's because I am using my phone to record this, and hopefully the sound will be clearer and the picture will be better. I have been recording the podcast previously on my computer, which is several years old. And I recently got an iPhone, a newer iPhone. I think it's got a 7 Plus. Specifically because I wanted to record podcasts on it. And I've been messing around with it. But the problem is my computer camera is right here. But if I look, I'm used to the camera being in the middle, and if I look in the middle, I'm going to be looking not at the screen. So I'm trying to make sure that I look at the camera. Please forgive me if I look at myself or if I just stare off into space for this episode. I will get better, okay? I promise I'll get better. I do have some cow news before we get started. It is, I have no idea what today's date is. Is it the 28th? Of October? It's Saturday, so whatever Saturday is. I know that the 31st is on Tuesday next week. So we have 2 cows going on right now that are ending on the 31st of October. The first is the September shawl along, which there has been so much participation in this cow. It blows me away. We've got lots of awesome prizes. I've got 2 pattern prizes. I have a pattern and yarn. I have I think another ball of yarn and a bag or something. I have a whole bunch of prizes. So there's going to be at least 1 each for the chatter thread, the finished object thread, and the Instagram hashtag September shawl along. There's probably going to be at least one or 2 more prizes total. So I will let you know. I'll show them all off on the next episode. You still have time. Not very much time. If you're a super fast crocheter, you probably could get done a granny stripe shawl or something like that, or even a cowl, because I will accept anything you can wear around your neck. So a shawl, a shawlette, a cowl, a scarf, an infinity scarf, I will accept all of those. So if you would like to participate and be in the running for some awesome prizes, there is still time. It will close September. It will close on October 31st, probably November 1st when I get around to closing the thread. I am going to be, in fact, I'll probably leave the thread open for a couple of days, the finished object thread, just to allow people time to post their WIPs if they finished them on October 31st. So please don't post it if you haven't finished it. I will not be done with mine, which we'll talk about later in this episode. So that's okay though, because obviously I'm not going to win my own prizes. The other cal that is going on right now is the super simple Tunisian cal, which is hosted by myself and Claudia of the Crochet Luna podcast. And if you have been dying to learn Tunisian crochet, this is the cal for you. It also ends on October 31st, so you don't have that much time. But each washcloth does not take that long to do, so I think that you could do it if you dedicated some time. You don't have to make all 4. Claudia has 2 patterns on her Ravelry group, which are the Tunisian simple stitch washcloth and the Tunisian knit stitch washcloth. And then I, on my group, have the shaker circular cloth and the Tunisian cross stitch dishcloth. There will be prizes for those as well. I will have 1 prize for the chatter thread and 1 prize for the finished object thread. So if you would like to participate, please join in and post your objects in the Ravelry group. I will be drawing winners for both of those cals before my next episode, which will be 2 weeks from now. So get everything into the Ravelry groups. In the next episode, I will announce all of the winners, and then they will get mailed out once you contact me. So keep an eye out. Make sure you watch the next episode to find out if you won. And then I think that's all the administrati that's going on right now. So let's jump right into finished objects. I don't have a ton of work to show you. It's honestly been a very crazy 2 weeks. I had school, work was insane. It's getting to be that time where everything is happening all at once and I am trying not to drown. We'll see about that. Next podcast I'm going to be recording actually from Texas because my work is sending me to Texas for 2 weeks in November. I'll be coming back like 2 days before Thanksgiving. And in my current job, there's just going to be some huge life changes happening, basically. For me, in the next couple of months, I'm going to be changing jobs, which I will tell you about once it actually happens. That'll be in December. I'm going to be graduating from grad school in December. Well, I won't be graduating officially until May. That's when the ceremony is. But I'll be done with all my coursework in December. And it's just, everything is happening, you guys. So I'm crocheting to keep myself sane, but I haven't had a ton of time, honestly, to spend on it. So what I have, let me show you. Last week I showed off 2 beanies that I had made as a commission. Guess what? This week I have 2 more. This is very loosely based on the work or play beanie pattern that is free online. I have changed it though. That pattern calls for color changes and it is nowhere near as big and it does not have as many rows. So I used the idea in the work or play beanie pattern. It has some rows of half double crochet, single crochet, half double crochet. And I used those twice in this beanie, and then at the very end I do a half double crochet and a single crochet. It just tightens it up more than if it had straight double crochets. So this is the Deborah Norville Everyday acrylic yarn. It's like the anti-pilling acrylic yarn. I really like this yarn for hats. It's so soft. And I know I have complained previously about this yarn fuzzing up when I worked on it. This ball didn't fuzz up at all. So I don't know if maybe I just got a particularly fuzzy ball last time. This is in Dark Heather? I don't know. And then this one is just a lighter gray. So it's for a man. You can tell because it's humongous. It's way too big for me. And I have a fairly large head, okay? Like my head is almost as big as my husband's head. Hats never seem to fit me very well. I don't know. I just have a large, it's because I'm so smart, you guys, and it's holding all of my brains, right? That's what I'm gonna tell myself, not that I just have a gigantic melon. So I finished these 2 hats. Each of these hats takes me approximately 2 hours, maybe an hour and 45 minutes, but when you count weaving in the ends and all of that and buying the yarn, it takes me 2 hours per hat. And I have been tracking how long it takes me to make commissions because I severely underestimate how long it's gonna take me to make something. But these hats, I made enough of them. I know they take me 2 hours each. And that's another Christmas present will be off to its home to be, I believe those hats are actually going to California. So that's pretty cool. The next finished objects I have are the Tunisian dishcloths, the other 2. I have actually completed my own cowl. Now, this will not be the case for the September shawl along, and I will explain why when we talk about whips, but I have 2 dishcloths. The first one is the Tunisian cross stitch pattern. So let me give you a close-up. This is a free pattern on behooked.com, Behooked Crochet, I believe. I have the links in my Ravelry group to the video tutorial as well as the written pattern. You may not be able to figure out the written pattern unless you're pretty experienced in Tunisian crochet without looking at the video, because the written pattern is very sparse, but the video is very detailed and clear. So this is some Bernat handicrafter cotton that I got on sale at Joann's for like $5. And it's got some color pooling, which I really like. I haven't used it. It hasn't been washed yet, but I'm pretty excited about this dishcloth. It's got such a cool pattern. And this one took me a while, but once I got the hang of it after about maybe 4 rows, it went a lot faster because I was able to figure out where I was. I didn't have to keep referring to the video. We'll put this one right here. The other one is the Tunisian shaker dishcloth, which the link for everything, again, is in my Ravelry group. Look at this! It's amazing. This is not gonna work. It's falling off of my shoulder. Now, this looks more complicated than it is. It uses short rows and Tunisian simple stitch. That's it. So basically what you do is you do 15, and it uses a provisional cast on. And before you get nervous and you're like, I don't know what a provisional cast on is, I can't do this. Well, a provisional cast on is literally you chain a bunch of stitches on a separate yarn. You work into those stitches with your main yarn and you keep going all the way around. And then once you join it together, you just rip that yarn out. So it's not scary, it's not complicated. You can totally do a provisional cast on. It's easy, it's just chains. And you already know how to do that because you crochet, right? Now, this is some scrap Lily Sugar and Cream orange and white yarn that I had just left over in my stash from some washcloths I made last year. The one thing I would say about this pattern is it has a lot of ends, and I didn't want to weave them all in. So in the video, she actually says just to tie a knot in your ends and snip them off. I am kind of afraid to do that. I don't do that. I never do that. However, because I didn't want to weave them all in this case, I did actually tie knots. Whoop. I gotta figure out this camera, y'all. Right here, there's a knot on every single one, and you can't really tell that there's ends. I'm just kind of afraid they're gonna come out when I wash it. This has not been washed yet. But honestly, if it does, it's not a big deal because I can make another one. So you make it in a circle, then you use Kitchener stitch to join them together. Now, my Kitchener stitch is horrible. This part of it's really good. That's what it's supposed to look like. This part is like a wobbly and all over the place. The reason for that is not only was I not really paying attention, I was trying to watch TV while doing this. I also crocheted 1 row 2 mini in the orange, and I was too lazy to rip it out. Why? It would have taken like 2 seconds to rip it out and put the right amount of stitches back on my hook. But I didn't feel like doing it. So I've got a wobbly Kitchener stitch right here. That's okay though, because it's a dishcloth, so honestly, who cares? And then you go around and she shows you how to close up the hole so that you get that cute spiral. I would really like to make this in some variegated yarn, because then there would be no ends to weave in. And they just look so cool. I know a lot of people have been making these and posting them in the finished object thread, like, and on, what am I trying to say? And on Instagram, that's where they've been posting them. So this is cool. This looks cooler though. I just don't know that I would make these as gifts for someone in 2 colors because of the time it would take with all the ends. If I were gonna give this as a gift, I definitely would weave in all the ends, because I would not want it to fall apart the first time someone used it. But this one's just for me, so I think it's perfectly fine. Well, those are my 2. I haven't posted them in the finished object thread. Oh, too busy, you guys. I do have one more finished object. If you follow me on Instagram, you will know what it is already. But it has now been washed, so it's better. It is my Bookworm sweater, the same sweater that I have been complaining about regularly on the podcast for the last several weeks. It is a pattern out of the Love of Crochet magazine, fall 2017. This is what it looks like. Here's another version. I just want to appreciate the fact that on my computer, when I would hold up something with white in it, it was completely blowing it out. Whereas you can actually see this. Way to go, iPhone camera. I've been pretty vocal in my complaints about this pattern because I got gauge and then it wouldn't fit, and just the pattern was not very intuitive, and I just all around, it wasn't a great experience making it. But I persevered because it was worth it. And I knew it would be worth it because it's such a pretty sweater. And it's done. Hopefully you can see what that looks like. Ooh, that was some bright light. The sun just came straight through the window. So you will have seen on Instagram the photo of me blocking this. I blocked this thing to death. Like, I don't think I've ever used so many pins in a project because I had to stretch the heck out of it to where it would not stretch anymore. Like, it was at its absolute limit because it wouldn't fit me. And actually the really annoying part is the body of the sweater wouldn't fit. It was too tight. The arms were pretty much perfect. So that goes back to my why am I having gauge problems? Because I got gauge, and on the arms, the gauge was just fine and they fit like exactly, except for the armhole. But on the sweater portion of it, it was so tight. And I made a large. Like, that's even a little big for me. So I don't know why I was having such problems. But I was a little concerned about the actual integrity of the sweater because I stretched it so much. And then I had to steam it to death as well because I need it to stay that size, because if it shrinks at all, it's not gonna fit me. So I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this, but these stitches are like, I've basically killed the acrylic. So it's lost all of its elasticity because I had to stretch it so far and steam it so with I mean, the steam was really hot and I really steamed it a lot to make it stay. Normally, I would prefer to just lightly steam this and have some stretch. Now, it is better. Now, I was going to hand wash this because I was concerned about the structural integrity of this sweater. However, I decided that is not the point of why I even made this sweater. I made it out of acrylic yarn so that I could wash and dry it. Also, this is Knit Picks Brava Sport, 100% acrylic. This is the colorway Dark Heather, which they have discontinued making. I believe they still have some on their website. Normally this stuff is $2 a ball. Because it was discontinued, I got it for $1.20 a ball. And I used 5 of these for this sweater. So less than $10. Like, honestly, like $6 or $7 with shipping to make this sweater. And I decided that if I couldn't wash and dry it, then I would just chalk it up to a lost project. So I chucked it in the washer and I chucked it in the dryer and it actually came out okay. So let me try it on for you so you can see what it looks like. When it came out of the dryer, it was of course way softer and it did regain a little bit of its elasticity. You can see. So you can see right here where the elastic is, like it got stretched more right here than it did right here. Now if I yank on it a little, it evens out. But the stitches are a lot thinner here because I had to really, really stretch out these armholes. So it pulled this tighter than it did the collar. And I had pins all around the collar, like a million pins here. I only very lightly blocked the sleeves just to make them a tad longer. And I'm gonna scoot back and stand up so you can see. This is what it looks like. It's got the same pattern all the way around. Hopefully you can see. I think you can because I'm wearing yellow underneath. And the sleeves are like a perfect length. That's right where I like my sleeves to sit. It's wonderful. Like the sweater itself is amazing. The pattern was a nightmare. I don't regret it. Although, I know I've said this before. There was a point where I like threw it down and I said to my husband I was never gonna finish it and it was never gonna work and this was a stupid pattern. And I'm really glad I persevered because I just knew in my heart that it was gonna be worth it. Whew, it's a little too warm today. I wore this earlier this week. I wore it to work. I love it so much. And we'll see if it doesn't last very long because of how much it got stretched, then that's okay. I'll just chalk it up to a fail. But I will enjoy it while I can. Hopefully it'll at least last for this winter. And I'm never gonna make it again. I thought about making it again in a different yarn and then I just was like, no, there's no way. So you too can make this sweater if you have patience, perseverance, and maybe a different yarn. I've been thinking maybe some of my issues were caused by the fact that I was using an acrylic yarn, and I believe she calls for, let's see, she calls for a baby alpaca silk yarn. Now, the yarn that I've substituted is the same weight and about the same yardage. So it should have worked okay, but of course the fiber is going to behave differently. So that could be part of the problem, is that the yarn substitution did not work as well as it could have. But I still am not really sure how I got gauge, like the sleeves fit perfectly, but the body of it didn't. It's not like my gauge would have changed that much between when I made the body and when I made the sleeves. So I don't know. If you make this pattern, good luck to you. I will be happy to listen if you would like to complain about it. And if you think it's a wonderful pattern, then I am jealous of your crochet skills. That's what I am. I did want to say this pattern is marked as a 2 out of 4. Difficulty? I mean, it really doesn't use that stitches that are that complicated. So I think it's not a hard pattern. It's not an intuitive pattern. And as far as patterns go, the difficulty rating, I know a lot of people look at a difficulty rating on a pattern and they're like, oh, I could never make an experienced pattern or an intermediate pattern because I'm a beginner, so I only need beginner patterns. I don't think that that's true. I don't think that the rating on the pattern means that if you haven't made an experienced pattern before, that you can't do it. The rating on the pattern to me is what level of concentration is it going to take? Because anyone can make a granny stitch shawl, right? That's easy. That's called mindless crochet. You can do it in front of the TV. You're not going to drop stitches. If you're comfortable at all with crochet, that is what you can do. You can make an experienced pattern. I have made plenty of patterns that are way outside of my comfort zone, and I never thought that I couldn't make them. I am convinced, and I hope that you are too, that if I stick with it long enough, and if I try hard enough, I will be able to finish the pattern. It may take a lot of frustration. It may take a lot of frogging. And I know people don't like to frog. It feels frustrating and feels hopeless. It's okay. You can frog it and do it again. If the pattern is, so let's say, an intermediate pattern, and you're a beginner, it just may take you a long time. It's not going to be quick and easy. It's going to require concentration, focus. It may require reading the whole thing, writing out. It may require you to make a chart. It may require you to have a list of symbols and what those things mean. But you can do it if you stick with it long enough. I'm 100% convinced. And the reason I'm 100% convinced of that is because I made the Drops Design cardigan. I think it's the Seashore Bliss cardigan that I showed off in some of my very beginning episodes, which was honestly a nightmare. I had such a hard time with the cardigan, but I finished it. And not only did I finish it, I lengthened it, I added my own border on the bottom, and then I was able to rework the decreases on the sleeves so that they would fit my arms, because the pattern as it was written was too big. It took ages, but I have a beautiful cardigan to show for it. And now I am pretty confident in my chart reading skills, and I feel like I could tackle another drops pattern with no problem. So you can totally do it, all right? If you have a pattern that you're just like, no, it's too hard, I can't do it, just try it. Just try it. And in fact, I want to add to that my Edlothia shawl, which is like the rainbow explosion shawl that I showed off in my last episode. I tried that pattern like a couple of years ago, and at that time I had never read a chart, and I wasn't comfortable. So I gave up on it. I filed it away. And then after I made that cardigan pattern, I was like, you know what? I can make this. And I was fine. I totally made it. And if I had just stuck with it a couple of years ago, I probably would have been reading charts earlier. So I hope that you will hear that. You who are afraid to make a hard pattern, you can do it. You just have to understand it's going to be a commitment. That's all for finished objects. Let's go on to whips. I only have 2. I'm sure you can guess one of them. It's the Leaf Line Shawl by Aparna Rolf, which is the shawl for my September shawl along, which is sadly not finished. And I honestly don't even know why I'm showing this to you, because I've done like 2 or 3 rows since last week. I am started on the border. I probably have like 10 more rows to do. And I do think it'll be big enough to wear as a shawlette once it's blocked. I know I was really concerned about that, but it's about this big now. Let me give you a close-up. This pattern is so gorgeous. Yes, it'll definitely be big enough to wear as a shawlette. If you can hear some like sawing sounds in the background, I apologize. Actually, I don't apologize. I'm sorry that you can hear it, but I'm not sorry that they're happening. My husband is in the garage making doing his woodworking. He is a maker as well. So I am doing podcasting and crochet, and he does woodworking, which is awesome. So I took this to knit night with me this week, which was super fun. Knit night is hosted by my local yarn stop, which is Stash, a place for yarn. And if you've watched the knit show with Vicky Howell on YouTube, which if you haven't, you totally should, because it's free and it's awesome. And there's a lot of crochet in it. It's not just knitting. Anyways, if you watch the knit show, Kristen, the yarn shop owner, is the very first guest in the very first episode. And she's part of the Knit Hive. She's not one of the guests that gets interviewed. But yeah, so that's pretty exciting. Anyways, we had knit night on the town, which is where we go places and knit. So this time we went to a local brewery, and I took this and I got everyone's opinion, because in the pattern, once you get to the very last 2 rows, it asks you to put beads, little seed beads on the shawl. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to, but everyone voted and they all agreed that it should have beads. And I guess I agree with them. It really would take it over the top to be like extra special if it had beads on it. But that means it's going to take me forever, because I have not ever beaded a crochet project, so I'm gonna have to learn how to do that, which is fine. As I just finished saying, it's just the concentration and the effort. It can totally be done. But it's for sure not gonna happen by Tuesday, because that's only a couple days from now. So there is 100% no way that this is going to be done. That's okay, I've decided. Because I've got most of it done, and I really have enjoyed making this a lot. I still say the back post double crochets in lace weight yarn are a little too fiddly for my taste, but I am a lot faster at them because I've done about 1 million on this pattern. And the color is fantastic, you guys. Hot pink. It's so amazing. And I know I've showed you this before, but it's living in a makeup bag. Because it's lace weight yarn, it fits perfectly. This is some makeup bag I got at like a TJ Maxx for like $5 one time. And it has a pom-pom, and it has never been used to store makeup. It was just in my closet, and when I was gonna make this pattern, I was like, it's pink. This has pink and a pom-pom. It's gonna be perfect. We'll see. Hopefully I'll have some to show you next time on that. Maybe, maybe not. The other work in progress is a commission that I just started for a Christmas present for someone. It's an order, and it's going to be a football pillow. I know it looks like a hat right now. It's not a hat. And let me prove it to you. It will. Now it looks like a red candy corn when it's on my head. It will definitely not fit on anyone's head, except maybe a baby. And it certainly wouldn't be comfortable for a baby because this is very stiff. Now, I know you're thinking, it's too rounded to be a football. Don't worry, don't worry. I am going to block this to the shape that I want. So what I'm doing is, I'm gonna pull it to a point, pin it out, and block it. This is Red Heart Super Saver yarn in the colorway Burgundy. I wanted to show you this really cool thing as well. I didn't have any clue about this until Melody from the Melody Crochet podcast told me this in a comment. By the way, you should watch her podcast if you do not. It's adorable. She's the cutest. That if the heart is facing you, the end that comes out of the middle of the ball of yarn is going to be this way, and the end that's wrapped around the outside is going to be this way. And I was like, what? That's crazy. And then the next time I got a ball of yarn, look what's right there. It has told me that on every single ball of Red Heart that I've ever had. I've never noticed. And it's not even like I have an excuse, because right where it tells you what type of yarn it is and the size and the hook size, it's right there. It's not like it's hidden in some weird place in the ball band. But if you're like me and you have not read the Red Heart ball band, that's a really handy trick. If the heart is facing you, the end is always going to be on this side to come out the middle. And that's what is happening. Now I know that you guys may be saying, I don't understand. A football is not red. And what I have to say to that is, you're correct. It's not red, it's supposed to be brown. However, this is an Alabama football. Roll Tide. I don't really follow college football. If I did follow it, I would root for the Gators, the Florida Gators, because orange and blue is a great combination. But the person that this is going to is a big Alabama fan. So I'm going to make a burgundy and gray football. And then once it's into a point, so basically I increased like I was making a hat, and I am doing this in half double crochet. I tried it in double crochet and it was too loose. The stitches, I think the stuffing would have come out, and I didn't want to make it in single crochet because that would have taken about 7 years. And I just think that it looks nice with the half double crochet, the little bit of a bigger stitch. So I increased up to about here, and then I've done some gray. These are just straight rows of half double crochet. So I'm probably gonna make it about this big and then start decreasing on the other side to a point. And then I'm gonna stuff it and figure out how to get the football laces on top. I still don't know if I'm going to make them as separate pieces and sew them on. I probably will do that, but I may try slip stitching them on as well. It just depends. It depends. I would have to probably slip stitch them with multiple strands of yarn to make it look realistic. So we'll see. I'm happy about this. That's my only other work in progress. I do have a couple of other upcoming commissions to do as well, which maybe I will have started by next podcast to show you. But right now, that's it. I've got that shawl and I've got that football pillow. Because the bookworm sweater is done, now I can move on to other wonderful things. The next segment is Happy Yarn Mail, which is my acquisition segment. I do have some happy yarn mail to show you. I have something that was gifted to me and some things that I've purchased. Number one, I will start with what is gifted to me. My aunt who lives in South Carolina. Hi, Aunt Denise. Hi, Iris. Iris is my cousin. They have been watching my podcast, and they at their Walmart have like 1 million balls of mandala yarn, apparently. So they got me 2, and they sent them to me. And these are 2 colors that I haven't seen anywhere around here. Maybe I haven't looked that hard, but I haven't seen them anytime I've been at Walmart. It is the colorway Spirit. I got 2 of them. I'll give you a close-up. So it's in consistent mandala fashion. It's about 590 yards, and it's got that long color change repeat. And then this one starts and ends at blue, and this one starts and ends at gray. So I don't know what I'm gonna make with these yet. Probably a shawl, unless I can find more. I haven't been to a Walmart in a while. If I can find more of this, maybe I'll make some kind of a cardigan or something out of the mandala yarn. That would, I mean, this blue is my favorite color of all time, followed by hot pink, but blue though. So I think this would make a beautiful cardigan, especially maybe one of those like cocoon ones that have like the bat wing sleeves. So we'll see. I'm gonna put this in my stash and I'm gonna think about it because I want to have the perfect project for it. So thank you, Aunt Denise. And thank you, Iris, for helping her pick this out. It's gonna be something amazing. I just don't know what yet. I also bought myself a ball of mandala yarn the last time I was at Walmart. I went there for some packing supplies. And the Walmart that's closest to me is very small. It's not a super center or anything like that. And their yarn section is like a third of an aisle, maybe. And they had 2 colorways of mandala yarn. So I bought one. This is the gnome colorway, I believe. No, it's not. It's not gnome. That was the rainbow colorway. This is chimera. I actually have had a ball of this before, and it was the very first mandala yarn I ever used, and it ended up being my sunset shawlette, which was just a granny triangle scarf. This is the same colorway, except that it has more pink. The sunset shawlette that I made before had a lot more blue in it. Like, it started at the blue, I believe. And this starts with yellow, and it's so pretty. And I actually think that I have a pattern picked out for this already, which brings me to my next acquisition, which is the Crochet Magazine. This is Winter 2017. I bought this because I want to make about 10 patterns in it. I have starred 10 patterns. This is their list of patterns. The one that I want to make with this mandala yarn is called the crossover shawl. And that's what it looks like. It is specifically designed to use one ball of mandala yarn. And I know that it looks like broomstick lace a little bit, but it's not. It's actually not broomstick lace. You're just working with long loops. So I've never done that before. I think that would be fun. I don't know when I'm going to get around to it because life, but I am going to get around to it eventually, and it's going to be this. So awesome. I want to show you a couple other patterns out of this as well, because I don't think I've ever bought a magazine that I wanted to make more patterns out of. There is the snowflake sweater. Beautiful. There is this one that's got like fancy cabling going on. That's called the top-down Aran pullover. Very original name. I'm looking for, this one, definitely gonna be made. Hopefully that's in screen. I couldn't see. And then there's this one, which is, oh, nope, this isn't even the one I was looking for. The Pop of Color pullover. How cool is that? That's still not the one I'm trying to get to show you. It's this one. This is called the Weekend Casual Hooded Sweater. I want to make this so much. Now, I don't know when I'm gonna make it because it calls for 15 skeins of bulky yarn. Now, I may be able to make this if I get the bulky yarn from Knit Picks, because they've got really cheap acrylic, as you know, acrylic yarn. And so I could probably get their skeins for about $2, $3 each for their bulky yarn. But that's perfect. It's so good. And there was something else I wanted to show you. Oh, it's right here. It's called the Snowcat Beanie. This magazine has patterns on Fair Isle crochet. So it's using, you're basically floating the yarn, from what I understand about the pattern, which I think is really cool. That's awesome that we're getting some great color work in crochet. This magazine was only like $7. So if you get a chance to pick it up and you like crocheting garments, this is the magazine for you. That's specifically why I bought it, because I love crocheting garments. And then last but not least was something that was sent to me because Knit Picks has my address now because I ordered from them. So they thought that I needed a Knit Picks Christmas catalog. Now, 98% of this magazine is knitted. And nothing, I have never looked at something that will make you want to knit more than this magazine. It's just basically, so it's got some of their products, and then it's got all of these crazy patterns. Like, look at this. It's insane. They've got all kinds of patterns, all kinds of sweaters, books, garments. They actually do have needles and stuff like that. And look at this. The patterns are so gorgeous. I don't know. They just sent it to me because they want me to buy more things. That's exactly why they did it. And it's basically like, I don't know how to say this appropriately. It's like yarn porn. Like, it's like, look at the beautiful things you can make. Nothing has ever made me want to knit more than this magazine. I don't have time to deal with that. And I love crochet. Crochet has my heart, but if you were lucky enough to get one of these in the mail because you've ordered from Knit Picks in the past, then you will know what I mean. It's just gorgeous. Gorgeous stuff. As for upcoming projects, I know I said I have a couple of commissions. One of those will be a donut pillow. And one of them will be a unicorn, which hopefully you'll see next time. And then I am actually going to make, so the lovely Deanne of Addie Day Designs gifted her new shawl pattern to me and then gave me a copy to give away as part of the prize for the September shawl along. So it was originally called the Sea Dragon, the Crochet Sea Dragon, but now it's called the Hooked Dragon because they didn't like, I guess where you upload it to sell your patterns, they didn't like that it had the word crochet in it. So I have one ball left of Knit Picks acrylic, and it uses a gradient yarn, and I got this. It's Lion Brand Shawl in a Ball. It is 58% cotton, 39% acrylic, and 3% other fiber. And you get 481 yards. Look at that. I saw it I was at a Michael's that is not close to my house. The Michael's that's close to my house like has not a great yarn selection. But this one had several aisles of yarn, and I had never actually seen this particular yarn before, and I had a 40% off coupon, so it came home with me. This yarn ended up being like $3. So that's beautiful. Now I know that this is not the same because you can see this is kind of like, it reminds me of like a rickrack. Look at the yarn. It's really cool. So this is not the same type of yarn, so I don't really know if it's gonna work to do the border in this black, but I'm gonna test it and see. If you have not seen the pattern, I will put a picture in right here. You should go buy the pattern and make that shawl. All right, that is all the yarny stuff. The last segment that I want to talk about today is what I'm going to call crochet for mental health. Crochet as a form of self-care. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because on my Instagram last week, I posted a photo, and in the description, I basically said I was having a rough week and I was crocheting. Crochet keeps me sane. And then at the bottom I said, I crochet so I won't unravel, which is true. And it's also, I didn't make that up. I saw that somewhere. I don't remember where I saw that, but it does not belong to me. And I asked, what do you do if you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling stressed out? What do you do to calm down? And a lot of it resonated with a lot of people. And I know that I've talked about this on the podcast before. Crochet is a form of active meditation to me, because in meditation you just kind of try to focus, try to clear your mind, and I am not great at that. and meditation is really good for you. But when I am crocheting, I am much more able to calm down and focus my mind because of the repetitive nature of the pattern. So it's just yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And I have to focus on it enough to where I can't be off on another planet in my brain. And especially if it's a harder pattern, I have to focus. So I haven't always crocheted. I started crocheting after I got married, and I knitted when I was in college. So yarn has been a part of my life for probably about 10 years now, maybe a little longer. And it was just something that I did as a hobby. I liked to do it. I didn't use it as a form of self-care at the time. I just did it because I liked it. And then I would say probably last year, I'm not sure when last year, the beginning of last year sometime, 2016, is when crochet switched from being a hobby to me to being a lifestyle. And what I mean by that is now I carry yarn with me everywhere. I'm like a crazy yarn lady, and I just always have a bag with yarn, and I'm always pulling yarn out and crocheting. And everyone thinks it's knitting all the time. And they're like, oh, what a fun thing. You always carry around yarn and you must love to do it. And that's true. I do love to do it. However, I also need to do it because last year, 2016 was probably, I'm not even going to say probably, it was definitely the worst year of my life so far. And I'm not saying that like just flippantly, like, oh, it was such a terrible year. It was hands down, like almost the entire year was a mess, and just thing after thing kept happening that was awful. And I actually sat down and tried to like write down everything awful that had happened to me in 2016, and my husband and I got like through July, and I was like, I can't do this. It's too depressing. And last year I had a lot of anxiety, and it's something I've never really had to deal with before in my life. Like, I'm a pretty steady, calm, happy sort of person. My baseline is happy. I don't know if you can tell because I'm pretty crazy, but my baseline is positive. But I found last year that was really, really difficult for me to maintain, and it wasn't me being authentic. So putting on a happy face to everyone was not a true representation of what I was feeling. And I don't say that in the sense that sometimes you have to do that, but I was trying to be honest with myself. And I remember one whole day, my husband was somewhere. He was doing something, and I was home by myself, and I was waiting for news on something, and I was so anxious, and I literally sat on the couch and I crocheted for 8 hours. And I could like barely move my hand by the end of the day. But I worked on a blanket that is still on our couch. I call it my stress blanket because the whole thing was pretty much made when I was stressed out. And I binge watched a show on Netflix, and I sat on the couch for 8 hours and I crocheted. And it's what got me through that day. And even now, things have dramatically improved. There's some awesome things happening in my life. Like, I'm so thankful and I'm so grateful. And even this podcast is just a wonderful thing it's just a place of positivity for me. But I still am dealing with some stuff that was left over from last year, and also kind of some residual anxiety that has not gone away. And I've kind of had to come to terms with the fact that maybe it's not going to go away. Maybe this is how I will be from now on, that anxiety is something I need to deal with on a regular basis. It's not something I can just brush off and pretend is not happening to me. So the question becomes, how do I manage? Because stress is something that we all deal with. So whether you have anxiety on a regular basis, or you deal with depression every day, or it comes and goes when there's a stressful situation, it's something that we all deal with all the time. You have to find a way to make your self-care a priority. And by self-care, I mean something that fills your tank. So crochet to me it calms me down and it centers me because I can't think about all the things that I'm worrying about. I can only focus on what I'm doing. And at the end of the day, even a horrible, terrible, no good, very messed up day, I still have something beautiful because I am crocheting. So, and to me, that's priceless. So out of something that was awful, yes, it was awful, but now I have this beautiful thing that I made. So even though I was upset, I was still able to be creative. Even though I was full of anxiety, I was still able to actually do something and be productive. Even though I didn't feel like getting out of bed or talking to anyone or dealing with anything, I was still able to pick up a crochet hook and some beautiful yarn and make something with my own hands that I can treasure, or that someone else can treasure if it's a gift, or that can help someone else. One thing that I did last year during the holidays was I took a huge amount of yarn in my stash. I dwindled my stash down and I made hats to donate to the local hospital. And I just made all kinds of different hats in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. And I gave them away because I don't need, oh, sorry, I just knocked the whole table. I don't need a million hats. It's too hot to even wear hats. And honestly, when I wear a hat, like, it gives me the worst hair. So as soon as I take this off, well, now it's not gonna work. Ugh. I see, my point is I have terrible hair after I wear a hat. And today, the one day out of the entire year, my hair just perfectly behaves when I take a hat out. Anyways, I don't know where I was going with that. I don't need a million hats, that's what I was saying. And I still needed to crochet because I needed it to calm me down. And so I made hats, and I made them for other people, and I gave them away, and hopefully someone who is going through something worse than what I can imagine in a hospital, who is sick, will now have a hat that was made. So that's an option. You can make things for yourself, you can make things for your friends or family. And it doesn't always have to be crochet. You can knit, you could sew, you could clean your house, you could take a bubble bath, anything that fills your tank and calms you down. And a lot of people, I think, have a misconception that you need to calm down right away. So if I start crocheting, it should instantly make me feel better. It doesn't always work that way. But it gives me something productive to do, and it focuses my mind. And this semester has been absolutely insane. And I've talked about this before. People are like, how do you have time? How do you have time to crochet? My answer to that is I don't have time not to crochet, because crochet is what is keeping me sane. When I am stressed out to the max, a half an hour of crochet is what brings me back down to reality, to a place where I think, okay, this is stressful, this is a terrible situation, I can still do this. And without crochet, I would just be like, all the time. I'd be up here freaking out, okay? And if it's okay, that's just life, right? Life is not always rainbows and sunshine, but that doesn't mean that you can't make something beautiful. So I would love to know if what you do for anxiety, if it's crochet, if it's yarn, if you go for a run, whatever you do, whatever fills your tank, leave a comment down below and tell me. Tell me what you do when things are crazy. And also leave a comment down below and tell me what you're working on, because I love to know what you're working on. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you would like to be kept updated on any new videos as they are posted, please do hit subscribe. And I will see you in 2 weeks. I will announce the prize winners in 2 weeks from now at the next episode. And until then, happy crafting, happy crocheting. I hope you have the most wonderful start to November, and maybe it'll get a little bit colder where you are than 60 degrees like it is in Florida, and you will have some time to wear your lovely handmade items. Until then, bye!